Hey guys, I'm Ascendance from 4FS Gaming, and this is the second installment in our series looking at how to win as the underdog. Northstar is in a strong place at the moment, but this Titan really shines in lane and area control. She punishes enemies who push up where they are not supposed to be. If only there was a Titan based around extreme mobility, flanking, and close range damage, then they would be the perfect choice to take down Northstar. Well, there is, and that Titan is Ronin. This matchup is a challenge for Northstar to win, but keep watching and we'll explain how to turn the tables and show you how the way of the gun can trump the way of the sword. If you don't believe me, I'll first run through the reasons why Ronin is so effective against Northstar. Basically, it comes down to two factors: range and mobility. Obviously, Ronin is useless at fighting Northstar at her preferred range, which is very far away, but he is equipped with all of the mobility options necessary to close the distance and force a tight CQC battle. This does not bode well for the sniper wielding Titan. And yes, Northstar does have options to limit Ronin's mobility, mainly in the form of tether trap. However, Ronin can straight up negate this with his phase dash, which will instantly free him from the tethers. If you add to this the fact that Northstar finds it very difficult to aim her shots when Ronin is all up in her face with that sword and shotgun, it becomes even more one-sided. Additionally, Ronin's sword block, when well timed, can negate almost all railgun damage, and it will allow him to effectively counter the flight core as well. So what can a Northstar do to take down Ronin? Well, we'll look at some general tips, and then we'll break down some gameplay footage as examples and analyze my play. First and foremost is awareness and positioning. You do not want to be jumped by a Ronin. Know your exits and position yourself so that any approaching Ronin would most likely have to cover open ground to reach you. Once you see that Ronin closing in, or even if you are surprised, your first instinct should be to pop down some stalling tactics, such as traps and cluster missiles, or even smoke, and find some teammates to hide behind. When you're in a group, it will make it a lot harder for the Ronin to single you out and take you down. But assuming there is no safety to run to, and you have to duel the Ronin right here and now, how do you do it? Well, you want to try and remain at that sweet spot where the Ronin can't hit you effectively with the lead wall shotgun. It is rather difficult to maintain this distance with Ronin's speed considered, so here are some tips to control the fight. Firstly, you need to time your abilities exceptionally well. If Ronin has phase dash ready, the tether traps will be useless. You cannot afford to waste these, as they have such a slow cooldown. I cannot overstate how important your tether traps are at immobilizing an enemy, so that you can maintain distance and drop in some good shots. Therefore, you should only be dropping these when you see that the enemy has already used phase dash, otherwise it will be completely wasted. It is also important to remember that tether traps take a moment to arm, so dropping them at the Ronin's feet is ineffectual. You need to put them where he will be in a few seconds, or then switch your momentum to move back over them, drawing them into the trap. The same principle applies for cluster missile, and it should be used in conjunction with the traps to control movement and also deal some extra damage when the enemy is pinned. Now, VTOL hover is not particularly useful against Ronin, as he will still be able to deal decent damage even when you are in the air. Additionally, you will move slower and be easier to hit. However, if you hover when the enemy uses phase dash, he will likely lose track of you for a few moments, as most people will try to reacquire you on a horizontal plane when they exit phase dash. You can use this extra second to score another critical railgun shot. 3 is the magic number for Northstar. You only need 3 shots, if well placed, to doom a Ronin, at which point you have pretty much won the fight. Let's have a look at some gameplay and see what I do in these situations. Firstly, this is a situation which is really good for you. You're with teammates, there are long sight lines, and there is a Ronin that makes the mistake of crossing open ground. A few railgun shots later, they are doomed and no longer a threat at all. This is an easy fix and the best possible way to fight a Ronin. This next one is a situation in which you have a 1v1 duel in close quarters. I have time to repair due to the dome shield, but I make the mistake of laying down my traps too early. My first shot is helpful, but the shield prevents any critical damage, so I'm one shot down and I'm still at a health disadvantage. Notice that the Ronin immediately phase dashes towards me. This both closes the distance and it negates my tether traps and my cluster missile, so things start to look pretty grim for me at this point. Luckily, a well-placed electric smoke and a couple of good shots begin to bring down the Ronin's health. This levels the playing field. Now I've saved my dash for this moment when I pull back to line up another 2 shots, and now both of our Titans become doomed, which is an okay result given my very poor start to this fight. Of course, had I been able to use my tethers more effectively, I almost certainly would have come out on top even in that close range engagement. Here we have another difficult situation in which 2 enemies are pushing up upon my position, and I use a combination of tether traps and cluster missile to pull back. And then I move rapidly with my triple dash. Now I missed this very important shot here, which is a big problem, but luckily I am still able to transition into flight core to finish off the pursuing Ronin. In this final example, I misplace my traps. This means the Ronin can get some solid damage in and close the distance, so I compensate for this by running back over my own traps, which he falls for, but then immediately counters it with a well-timed phase dash. Electric smoke does allow me to block his pursuit, and I anticipate a flank from the other direction. Disaster strikes as I allow an enemy ion to sneak up behind me, but luckily those traps stall the Ronin enough for me to make it around the corner and drop a cluster missile. My flight core will then both damage the ion and eventually force the Ronin to eject. It's not a perfect solution, but it's pretty good given the circumstances. It's not a perfect solution, but it's alright given the fact that the ion surprised me. I hope that some of these examples can show you the good and the bad when dueling Ronin as Northstar. It's not always easy, but you can definitely doom them and come out on top if you use tethers and missiles properly. Of course, the most important thing is that you hit those shots. Critical charged rail shots devastate Ronin's health bar, and each miss is extremely costly. Let us know what matchup you would like us to look at next in the comments below. And please contribute to the discussion if you disagree with any of these strategies or you have any other tactics that you would like to add. If you guys do have your own clips of using Northstar to take down Ronins, you can post them in the comments and I'll make sure that they get approved. Until next time, this is Ascendance, have fun out there.